Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video here, we successfully set up our total new project, right? And also I have take it in our editor as a Visual Studio Code editor. Better I want to do and to run with the live server. If you click as a go live, then that will be run again with our port, which is totally fine. So right now we don't need this. I close it and also I close it, and that is our one of the user, right? And here there is another user as a Andrew. Now I want to actually call this API. Okay, with this API I want to get this user all data. Right now we don't need this. I close it. Okay, perfect. So here live server is now running. I want to call this API. So if you want to call this API, I hope you already remembered that part. I have already discussed about that things with you. Then that we have to run with the fetch, right? We have to fetch all the data. So if you want to do that work right now, we have to work in our index.js. So I simply open this index.js, and now we have to write down this code in here. Okay. So I want to fetch this API data. So here we have to run that fetch. Right, so that will be the fetch, and into this fetch area here I want to use that backtick, and into this backtick I want to call out this API. Right now I want to get this user all the data. I copy it, and then here I simply paste it. Okay, and now we have to pass one of the promise, like we have to get all the data. So after that, then that will be the then. Remember that there's then method, and into this then method area here I want to pass one of the response. You can see it's also display as a value will be as a response. Okay, I want to pass that response or res, whatever you choose. I pass one of the parameter in here, and then I want to call it. Okay, I want to take this response data because that will be one of the JSON format data, right? So for the reasons with this response will be as a JSON. Okay, JSON, so that will be as a JSON property. Here I simply call this JSON. Okay, and then also I want to promise it with the another name, like I make it as a then function again, and with this then, that is here I want to call it with the another name as a profile, because I want to get this user profile. Okay, here I make it as a profile. So that is a profile, and this profile will be returned. Okay, here we have to return it. I want to simply return it with this what name. I better into the console log I want to check it. So into the console log area I want to return our this profile. Okay, so that is actually a profile. I simply pass it. Okay, I simply pass it in particular that position. Now that should be display in our profile. Now if you click as a save all, and now if you go and here right now I refresh it, and now go to that inspect, and if you go to that console and go to that console, you can see there is one of the object, and into this object area it's perfectly get all that our user data. Okay, that means this user data, and here if you go, you can see there is a name is visible in here. There is a logging with this Andro location as UK, every data. Okay, this user all the data is now successfully visible. And if you want to get this data in different way, I have already discussed about that things with you. With this asynchronous function we can do that work, right? Then what exactly you have to do, you have to write down as a asynchronize. Okay, asynchronize, and then I put one of the function, there is a function keyword, and I just name it as a get user. Okay, that is one of the function. I simply loaded this function, and into this function area here I want to pass one of the name. Okay, so here in particular that position I want to pass one of the name, and then I want to get this data, right? So here if you want to get it, I better take one of the variable as a constant variable, and I just name that variable as a response or res. Okay, I make it as a res, and then here we have to do that is one of the asynchronous function, right? If you want to fetch this data for the first time, you have to use it as a await. Remember, I have already discussed about that things with you. That will be the await, and then we have to write down as a fetch. Okay, right? Then that will be as a fetch method. I simply loaded this fetch, and into this fetch area here I want to get which user data. This user data I want to pass this API in here. Okay friend, I hope you already remembered this part. Then after that, that is one of the JSON format data. So I take another variable as a constant variable. I just name it as a profile. Okay, profile. So you can actually do that things like that way, then that will be actually easy. And then also here we have to make it as a await. There is a await function, and then that will be as a response. So that is our response. Here I want to make it as a JSON data. So that is one of the JSON format data. And now I want to return this. Okay, I want to simply return this profile. I simply return this profile. I hope, friend, it's very much clear to you. Okay, so now that is the appropriate here. Right now we don't need this. I want to do and to close it. Okay, I simply close it. Great. But here one things you have to remember, like when you use that things like that way, it should be able to transfer only the 60 API in 1 hour. So if you want to add that multiple one, then you have to create one of the another API. But I show you. You can do that work, rather than that is totally fine. If you go to that GitHub page, okay, that means the GitHub official page. I want to do, first of all, I want to logging, and that is totally free. First of all, you have to create one of the GitHub account. Okay, make that sure you created one of the GitHub account. So now I have already created one of the account, and after that logging, that is our setting option. If you have to go to that setting, and into the setting you have to go to the developer setting. And into this developer setting here, there is a GitHub apps, and also there is a OAuth apps. Okay, here you have to create one of the OAuth application. So simply create as a register new application, and into this area here you have to write down your app name. So here education purpose I use it as a LE. Okay, LE, and then the Profinder. Okay, Profinder app. So this type of one of the name I want to add, and after that, then that will be the home page URL. Our home page URL will be our local server. Okay, that means that is actually our local server. I copy it, and then here I paste it. Okay, so that will be our local server. And also there is authentication callback URL. Here I also want to use that same. So that's all you have to do. And after that, that is a register application. I want to click as a register application. You can see as this application created successfully. Okay, when you created this application, it should be provided two things. It should be provided one of the client ID, and also it should be created one of the client secret key. If you generated it, now that should be display. You can see now there is a display as a secret, one of the secret key, and also there is one of the client ID. Okay, so now I want to add both of these in our project. That means here I want to take one of the variable as a constant variable. Okay, constant. I make it as a name, it as a client ID, client underscore ID. Okay, client ID. And into this client ID area, here I want to simply copy it. That is our client ID. I copy it, and now I want to add it in here, which is totally fine. And also there is another one. I make it as a constant. Okay, constant, and I just name it as a client secret. Okay, underscore secret. So client secret, and into this client secret area, here I want to pass over this secret key. Okay, so that is actually secret key. I copy it, and now I want to paste it in here. Okay, make that sure you add both of this in particular that position. Now I want to pass this client ID and then the client secret in our this URL. Okay, into this URL, if you want to pass it, better I want to pass it with the query string. With this query string, we can pass it very easily. Then what exactly you have to do? After that name, that will be one of the questions mark. Okay, after that name, that will be a questions mark, and then I just name it as a client underscore ID. Okay, client ID will be, first of all, that will be the $sign, and for the reasons here I'm actually using that backtick. Okay, for the reasons now we are able to use it, then that will be as a curly bracket, remember, and into this curly bracket, that is our ID, right? That means that is our client ID. I take it with this variable, so now I simply pass it. Great. And after that, I want to add another one, that will be as and. Okay, and then there is client secret, client underscore secret. So that will be as a client secret, and client secret will be first time that will be as a $sign, and then the curly bracket, and into this curly bracket area here I have already taken our client secret key. Now I want to pass it in here. Okay, I simply pass it. I hope, friend, it's very much clear to you. Here we generated our client ID and then client secret key. That is one of the API. Now we are able to call more than 5,000 API in 1 hour. Okay, so before, if you make it as only this one, then that will be only, then you are able to call 100 API in 1 hour. So right now we are generated it, so we are able to now call that more than 5,000 API in 1 hour. Okay, how can do that work? I hope it's very much clear to you. So friend, here we successfully complete one part, and now we have to work in our this input field. Okay, so into this input field, whatever the name you will, that means whatever the keyword you will pass it from here, it will be search in our GitHub. Okay, into this GitHub area it will be search, and if you get perfect one of the user data, then that will be get all that user data and that will be display in here. Okay, now we have to work in our this form. So if you want to work in particular this form, first of all we have to find out appropriate position, right? If you go to that our index HTML, into this index HTML here, we have to also create another DOM element. I hope you already know about it, because we have already done this type of one of the project. You can say that is one of the form, right? Into this form I started, and that is our form ended. So into this form area, that is one of the input field, and there have one of the ID, right? That is one of the ID as a search ID. Here we have to take it, and also there is an input field, and into this input field there is also another ID as a find by username. Okay, now I want to do, first of all I want to get our this ID as a search in our index.js. Right now I want to do what exactly you have to do. I hope you already know the procedure, and now I want to work again. That will be as a document, and then the query selector. So with this query selector I want to get all our ID, right? So if you want to get this ID, what exactly you have to do? First of all, that will be our name as a search, and for the first time that will be as a hash, because that is one of the ID hash, and then our class name, that means ID name. And after that I want to add one of the listener, that will be as add. Okay, add event listener. So I simply loaded this add event listener method, and now first of all we have to pass that our type will be as a submit type, right? I make it as a submit type. You can see it's also suggested as a add event listener. Here we have to pass one of the parameter as a type. I simply pass it, and then here we have to write down one of the function. I want to use that array function. Okay, if you want to add that array function, then that will be as a from here also I want to pass one of the event. I have already discussed about that things with you, and that is our array function, right? We simply call our this array function in here. And you can see it's already getting some of the error, because of all that will be on of the comma, not that full stoppies. You can see now it's totally fine. Perfect. So in particular that position, when you search any keyword, this page not should be reloaded, right? If you want to protect it, I have already discussed about that things with you. There is another method as a prevent default, right? So prevent default will be our this event. So I want to pass that event. This event will be as a prevent, okay, prevent default. Okay, that is a prevent default, and I just simply call this prevent default method. Now this page will be not loaded, and now I want to get like the username, right? So if you want to get this user, here there is also another ID as a find by user. I want to take this part. If you want to take it, then that will be same. I first of all take one of the constant variable as a username. Okay, I name it as a username, and then that will be as a document, and then the query selector. With this query selector I want to get this ID, our ID. That means here we have to add that as a hash, because that is one of the ID. If you go into this index, that is our find by username, right? I want to use that as a find by username. Okay friend, and then from to this position, what exactly you have to do? You have to get this value, whatever the things you will type. So that is one of the value. I want to get this value. If you want to get this value, then you have to write down as a value, right? That will be as a value. I simply write down this value. Great. Now if you want to check it, which type of user it's actually get, now into the console log. Okay, console, into the console log I want to display our this username. Okay, username, I simply display it. Now if you want to check it, click as a save all. Now go there, now refresh it. I refresh it. Here actually it's getting some of the icon error, which is not important, which is totally fine. If you remove this script, then automatically that will be gone. Okay, which is right now it's totally fine. So I want to write down as a Aryan. Okay, I make it as a Aryan. Now click as a search. It's make it as a null. Okay, it's getting as a null. Why it's actually getting that null? Let's check this out. Here that is our value. You can see that is one of the why it's coming out. I have already write down as a value, right? That will be as a value. Okay, value maybe actually it comes from by suggested, so that will be one of the value, right? Now let's check this out. Click as a save all. Now go there, refresh it. I make it as a Aryan. Now enter. Yes, now you see it's now perfectly get that name. Okay, that means total our perfect keyword value is now get it. So now I want to do when you pass any name, that will be search into the GitHub API, and if we get some of the data, then that will be get this data, right? Here I have already created one of the method as a get user method, and that is one of the asynchronous function, right? So now we have to also make this function, because here I am actually using that array function. So here that is our function, right? Into this function area here also you have to make it as a asynchronous function. So that is I make it as a asynchronous. Okay friend, I hope it's very much clear to you. I make it as a asynchronous, and here from to this position I pass one of the names. So this name I want to pass that is our username. Okay, so if you want to pass it right now, what exactly you have to do? Better I take another variable as a constant variable. I hope friend you understand, because every part I'm actually trying to explain very clearly, but you have to practice it. When you practice, then that will be more clear to you. Okay, I take another variable as a profile. I make it as a profile. So into this profile area, that is one of the asynchronous functions. So for the reasons here, we have to use it with the await, right? That will be the await. And with this await, I want to access this get user method. Okay, I simply loaded this get user, and into this get user, that is one of the parameter I have passed before as a name. So now that is actually I get all that our value, take the things with this variable, and now here I want to pass it, because with this value it should be searched, right? With this value it should be searched. Now for the reasons here I pass it. So now if you want to check it, you can check it like here. I want to pass, that is our constant profile. I want to pass this profile in here. Okay, with the console log area, I want to print this profile. And now we have to update our link. That means here you can say I have already getted that users, and then appropriate one of the users. So this user will be what? This user will be whatever the key I'm actually passing from here. So that will be our this key, right? So that is the name. I want to pass this name in here. Okay, that will be as a total dynamic. If you want to pass it, then first time we have to add that as a $sign, and then the curly bracket. And into this curly bracket area here I want to pass this name. Okay, so now I simply pass it. If you now click as a save all, now let's check this out. If you go click as a refresh, so right now I search with the name here, there is a username as a Andrew. I copy it, and then that will be as Andrew. Click as a enter. Yes, you can see it's now successfully get this data. That means this Andrew data is successfully getted. You can see there is a logging user name, everything. And if you search with the easy learning, my account username as easy learning bd. Okay, if you search with the easy learning bd, now click as a enter. Okay, I make it as a enter. Now which data is actually is getted? There is same data, right? This data is not changes. Here this data is not changes. Better I have to refresh it again. Let's check this out. There is easy learning bd. Click as a enter right now. Yes, you can see it's now perfectly get that easy learning data. So all that easy learning data, there is a country location, logging user, everything. You can see it's now successfully get all that our easy learning details data. Okay, you can see there is a bio as a best professional online courses, the blog, everything. Okay, everything is now successfully get this data, and I hope it's very much clear to you. Now I want to get this user all that API data, and this data I want to visible in here. Okay, in particular that position. So how can do that work? Better I want to continue this process. In our next video, I will show you that things with a live example. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.